say in your mind, say to yourself, I am more than my physical body. Because I am more than physical matter, I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world. I deeply desire to expand, to experience, to know, to understand, to control, to use such greater energies and energy systems as may be beneficial and constructive to me and to those who follow me. I deeply desire the help and cooperation, the assistance, the understanding of those individuals whose wisdom, development, and experience are equal to or greater than my own. I ask their guidance and protection from any influence or any source that might provide me with less than my stated desires.
I do not know all the answers to the questions about reality. I do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of a family amongst lords of consciousness. I am the
Voidwalker. Let's go.
Welcome to Lighting the Void.
Broadcasting live from this moonlit shack on a hill in the Mossy Creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. This is Lighting the Void, live here on Fringe.fm, which is, the website is being updated as we speak. So if you go there, you'll see a big sign that says maintenance in progress, but you can listen to the audio live broadcast of this every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights right here on YouTube, Live 365, TuneIn, TalkStream Live, and the Paranormal Radio app. I'm stoked. We're going to get a little paranormal tonight, a little too paranormal. We've been getting deeper into Vuldoon's books, but towards the end, he starts talking about ghosts and stuff. And last night I told that story that kind of vibed with that, with the ghost story. That how a lot of ghosts that we see are actually probably just people traveling in their astral bodies. In fact, what he said is that sometimes when people, let's say they go night-night somewhere else that they're not used to, there's a stress desire to sleep. Why the hell are my S's so S-y? I don't like it. It sounds like a snake. It's pissing me off. Anyways, when we go sleep somewhere else, there's a stress desire for us to lay down in our own comfort zone, and that causes us to astrally project, whether we're conscious or unconscious. So what if 80 to 85% of the ghosts that people are seeing are actually just a bunch of people going night-night somewhere else, you know? Dan, Jane, Mark, from the great state of Texas. The Domex are from Texas, too. Beezy, what's up, Beezy? Dan, and, oh, yeah, I already said Dan. So, and Gypsy Jenny, what's going on? And all the lurkers out there. If you want to chat, thanks to the Domex, you can chat in Discord and, I guess, the Telegram. But, I don't want to have to look down. So, if you can just chat in the YouTube, that would be great. That would be actually really great. 501-777-5631 is the call-in number for tonight. Let's move on. So, phantoms of the dead are often dominated by the stresses of their desire habit. And wouldn't that be crazy? Like if like 90% of all you, when we watch these paranormal videos, you know how they hype them up and it's like, what was that? What was that? Did you hear that? What was that? And then they got all these different, EMF readers and stuff like that. What if all of those things were not really like dead people? Oh, they could be, but a lot of them were just us. What's up, Cosmic? What if it was just us, astral traveling around? See, I think that's part of it. But the dead do wander around. Good morning. Where are you from, Susie? Did you already tell us where you're from? If you're saying morning, the moon lit is here tonight, so you must be across somewhere else. This is one of the reasons for haunted houses and haunted localities. Phantoms of the dead may have desire and habit so strongly embedded with them that they will continue steadfastly in their habits and conduct even after becoming conscious. So their habits and conduct are still a thing even after we're dead. That's something we need to think about. What if that's true? And they have to work it off before they can move on to another realm. Now, how does he know that? Even though there's a lot of people, like I said, Buellman, Robert Monroe, other people, Preston Dennett, others that have been on the show that have said the same thing. But what does he mean by work it off? What about, so if I die and I become a ghost, everything I'm addicted to, tobacco, sugar, caffeine, other stuff, I have to work that off in the astral realm? Is this for everybody? So he goes on to say, it is this same stress of desire or habit or both, which the phantom tries to work off when we sleep. It's the same thing. And knowing this, we're able to force the subconscious will to move out of the phantom while we sleep by instilling a strong stress of desire or habit or both, which will come to the surface of the subconscious mind during the hours of sleep. So while our physical body is usually incapacitated and the phantom will be liberated, that's what happens every night, to work off the stresses of habit or appease the desire. Do you realize that there's a part of yourself, even if you say like, hey, I'm not dreaming or I don't dream, but what if there really is a part of yourself that's trying to work off that desire that you're unaware of? Can you imagine like being unconscious, but it's like being a blackout drunk? I mean, think about it. You go to sleep, you don't remember your dreams, you don't remember getting out of body, yet your phantom is wandering around doing its thing, working off these addictive or desire habits. That's kind of weird. I hope there's some good coffee on. I should have had some coffee tonight. I hope there's some good coffee on the other side. So, according to Vuldoon, phantoms of the dead, for a time after entering the astral plane, do not conduct themselves in a manner differing from projected phantoms of the living. They act exactly the same. And the astral plane coincides with the physical plane, just as the astral body coincides with the physical body. So, some remain unconscious for a time, others are conscious even before the astral cable snaps, and others roam about in a dream or partially conscious. While in either the unconscious or partially conscious condition, the phantom is under the stress of habit or desire and doesn't deviate from it as long as the suggestion remains active. So if you're craving a cup of coffee or a cigarette or sugar or sex or whatever it may be after you die, you're going to be wandering around looking for it, according to these guys. But once conscious, he can, if he wills, to break the continual appeasing of desire and the routine of habit. Yet, as a matter of fact, the stress is so strong that the phantom in many instances loiters about its familiar haunts, submitting to the urge of the stress, even while conscious. After death, habits are unbroken, desires are unappeased, and the stress of them remains. The phantom goes through the process of appeasing some desire which he had in the flesh, or the habit to which he had been accustomed. I mean, if you think about it, though, some of these paranormal videos that we see, the ones that might be real, you know, that are obviously not faked, or if they're fake really good, might actually be either astral travelers or dead phantoms just going through the kitchen or knocking over chairs or doing stuff, you know. Beezy says, I read in Frederick Dotson's book that stuff like addictions become fragments that attach to other people when you die. But then again, how does he know? That our addictions, what's up, Ari the cat? Whales. Okay, Susie, that makes sense. So, what people though? Like, who would it? Like, whose would my addictions attach to when I die? That's a good. I don't know. Yeah, and how would he know that? Unless he's talked to some dead people. But the unconscious phantom, even this is trippy, man. Think about this. The unconscious phantom sometimes moves material objects. So you've been told that the way in which the subconscious will responds to the suggestion depends upon the shade of the suggestion. So under the stress of a deep-rooted habit, routine, the subconscious will becomes, on some occasions, pretty determined, and it uses powerful motivity in every action, and this motivity, while performing a habit, is much more powerful than other times. Now, this is the reason why phantoms of the dead, while under the stress of habit in their accustomed hauntings, often move objects with their conscious wills could not move. So, I guess what he's saying here is, wait, under the stress of habit in their accustomed haunts often move objects which their conscious wills couldn't move. It is the stress of suggestion which is so powerful and deep-rooted in the subconscious mind that it produces a strong subconscious will response. The unconscious phantom under the stress of working off a habit can sometimes move things which another conscious phantom cannot move because the conscious will cannot produce the motivity which the subconscious will can produce. And a single conscious suggestion is not as strong as a deep-rooted subconscious suggestion. So what he's saying in the spirit of the upcoming Halloween is that the phantom body, if you're consciously in your phantom body and aware of it, it's like that movie Ghost, and I guess with Patrick Swayze. You can't really move stuff because you don't, you know, that weird looking dude on the train is like, or in the, so he's like, from your gut, you know. But if you're, let's say, if you're unconscious, if it's being done by your subconscious, you're not aware that it's even happening. Is he saying that, this is trippy, man. Is he saying that our etheric doubles, our ghost bodies, the ones that move around every night, they usually stay close to us when we sleep, or phantoms, that these things can move objects as long as we're not conscious? So when we go out of body and we're not aware of it, that's when they're moving objects? Because if that's the case, then all the hauntings we've ever seen are probably not what we think they are. Many haunted house investigators have noted that certain manifestations occur at certain times regularly. This is because the phantom is under the stress of habit. Here's an example. I knew an old lady who lived in a room on the second floor of a house where she spent the last years of her earthly life. She had a habit during the last 10 years of her life of reading the Bible regularly. Every morning between 4 and 5 o'clock, she would arise, take a squeaky old rocking chair which she cherished, and read the Bible while she rocked back and forth, and every rock of the chair producing a similar squeak. At 5 o'clock, she would close her Bible, then go downstairs, and this routine she kept up for 10 years. That's a lot of ritual, right? So finally she passed out of earthly existence. The occupants who lived in the house after the old lady's death were awakened every morning about 4 o'clock and would hear the chair which the old lady had used squeaking as if someone were rocking back and forth in it. The story circulated that the house was haunted, and not only did occupants who lived there immediately after the old lady's death move out, but no one would ever move into that house after that. And although the people who moved out were not superstitious, well, so they said, and did not believe in spirits, they nevertheless insisted that they heard the chair squeaking regularly between 4 and 5 o'clock every morning. This is given merely to show how the stress of habit and the subconscious mind will grip the phantom, and further, how strong motivity is under the stress of a desirable habit. The phantom was under the desire to read the Bible and under the habit of reading it on a regular basis at a certain place. That's it. How could they say they didn't? Well, I mean, I don't understand. How could they say they didn't believe in spirits yet they heard the damn chair rocking every morning at the same time? This is what I mean by, like, some people refuse to believe in the metaphysical. They just refuse it. They'd rather laugh at you and call you crazy because you can't prove it with something. You can't measure it, so you're crazy. You know? I wish the sugar-addicted phantoms would leave me alone. Yeah, that's Beezy. That's your phantom doing that, though. You know that, right? Look, hey, I'm just as guilty of it. Like when I was a kid, I was raised by parents that, you know, the healthiest dinner we ate was probably breakfast and dinner, and it was usually Southern cooking. The rest of our lives were spent living in and out of, I'm not gonna lie, gas stations, so to speak. Most of the stuff they were feeding us was Southern home cooking, and the rest was whatever you stopped at the gas station and got, right? That's a lot of damn sugar. And when we were kids, they used to give us, what was it, Mellow Yellows? Mellow Yellows. That's what my dad drank. He's got diabetes now, but that's what he drank when I was a kid. And every time he'd go in the station, he'd give me one. Now, I just thought the Mellow Yellows were the greatest things on the planet. Right? Mellow Yellows and honey buns. But when I look at the sugar content of one of them sumbitches, and I've done drugs, so I know how much a gram is, and it tells me how many grams of sugar are in that thing, I cannot believe, like, I can't fathom the amount of sugar that's been going through my body, you know? Just going through my body, even as a child, it's disgusting thinking about it. That's what happens. So when we become adults, we become responsible. We got to take care of this ourselves. Even if our parents screwed us up as kids, it's still our responsibility to fix it. But damn, sometimes these habits are hard to break. So imagine dying and all you want is like a Mellow Yellow, and you're so maybe there's some phantoms that hang out by the gas stations trying to get one. I don't know. Here's another story about how this works, though. Here's another case which illustrates how the phantom turns to its regular habits when projected. So an old man, 75 years old, lived with his son and his son's family. They all slept on the upper floor of the house, and the old man having a room of his own, the husband and wife a room of their own, and the two children, same thing. They all had rooms. So the old gentleman was in the habit of rising early in the morning and lighting the stove downstairs. He did this at 6:30. Approximately. Not because he was under any obligation to do so, but because he wanted to do it. And one Sunday morning about this hour, the son woke upstairs and heard the stove lids rattle on the stove downstairs. He told his wife that his father, the old man, was lighting the fire. Nothing unusual in that, but a half an hour later, the son and his wife arose. Going downstairs, they found that the stove had not been lit. Still, they knew that they had heard the old man, or at least someone, rattling about the stove at 6:30. The wife, going upstairs to the children's room, told them not to make a commotion when getting up, as their grandfather was still asleep in his room. Now, this is this dude astral traveling, doing the same thing, I bet. But the children objected to this, saying that they had heard their grandfather go through the hall and downstairs and heard him rattling about the stove, with the children confirming their former belief that the old man was already up. But the son and his wife went to the guy's room, and he was asleep. Or he was lying if he was asleep, but when they examined the guy, he was dead. A doctor was immediately summoned and stated that the old man had been dead at least 5 hours. So they concluded that it could not possibly have been the old gentleman whom they had heard and whom the children had heard. But you and I know it was him. He was just in his etheric double. He was in his astral body. Again, the phantom, the projected phantom, was under the stress of habit, and the motivity in such a case is powerful. I still want to know how they're moving physical objects other than the word powerful, though. I need to understand this. Right. Can you imagine that? Have you guys seen that? What is that movie? Waking Life, that animated movie? What's up, Jen? I haven't heard, and also imagine the spirits hang out at bars or alcoholics. Yeah, Juan and Thomas from Paranoid American were talking about that. There's a story of astral entities that were trying to invade people's bodies while, other people were getting drunk so they could feel that alcohol again. But watching that movie Waking Life, if you die in your sleep and your astral body wakes up, you're gonna walk downstairs, start trying to make breakfast, you know what I mean? You're not gonna know the difference. So in the list of factors which incite the subconscious will to move the astral body may be found intervention, or what is that? Not intervention, but innervation. There's no need to go into a study of this factor, for we've already learned that innervation, or lack of cosmic energy, causes the astral to move further out into the cosmic stream of energy during sleep. We've also talked about that the subjects, people that have a nervous temperament, move out more quickly, further, and easier. So innervation is really a bodily condition. So it's an aid to projection of the astral body. So if you repeat to yourself over and over again, I have energy, I have energy, I have energy, day after day, as some authorities maintain that you should do to promote projection instead of aiding projection, you are actually binding your astral body tighter to the physical. For the more energy you store up, the less inclined will the astral condenser be to move to a greater distance after you separate. And if the nervous person or the nervous temperament be the best suited to projection, then this is not inconsistent to say that to build up the energy is the best method of attaining projection. Surely it is. It is a lack of nervous energy which makes the nervous temperament, and to build up one's energy by any means is only to draw the subjects further away from the end desired. The astral body does not separate from the physical body at night during sleep because it has too much energy, but because it doesn't have enough. That's the reason why we go to sleep. If it were strength of will and accumulation of energy which caused projection of the astral body, the sick person would be unable to project. But this is not what happens. The opposite happens when people get sick. These are known facts too. Now, I have the greatest of respect for all of my contemporaries in this field, but I believe that their theories of good health and accumulation of energy are honeycombed with inconsistencies. And I am a dogmatic in my subconscious stress theory. Man, he's saying they got it all wrong. All of the new agey kind of people that are talking about the out-of-body experience kind of scientifically have it wrong. But I don't think we could put science to this yet, because if he's saying that when we go to sleep, that is only to recharge our astral body, and the further out the astral body goes, the more that body recharges. Well, recharges what he calls cosmic energy. There's no way to prove that. I mean, it makes sense, but there's no way to prove it, What the hell is cosmic energy? Other than sunlight or starlight, I don't know any other cosmic energy, unless that's what he's talking about. So he goes on to say, now that we understand what it is that impels the subconscious will to move the body while we sleep, all that's necessary to do is to develop one of the factors strongly enough so that it will come to the surface, or stay at the surface of the subconscious mind after we go to sleep. So when you're choosing a factor one wishes to use, one should not select the first one he thinks of, but should first of all resort to analysis and see if it be the factor suited to his individual case. This shouldn't be too difficult to develop in the subconscious mind, which would be in harmony with the laws of projection, and which you've already strongly developed if you've been doing this a while, instead of creating an entirely new one. Ask yourself questions such as, have I a desire which I dream of appeasing frequently, or which grips me forcibly in my waking hours? Will it require movement of the astral body in order to appease it? Is it a sex desire? And if so, do not use it. It will not permit passivity of the physical body. Is it a desire for revenge directed against somebody else? If so, don't try to develop it. Do I have a habit which I like? Is it a desirable habit? Do I dream of it frequently? And this shows you that it is strongly rooted in your subconscious mind and suggests itself while you sleep. Is it part of my routine? Do I dislike my routine? Etc. How often do you guys really do this, though? How often do we even look at our habits? I mean, if we got to do this to astrally project, then, it seems like a lot to go through, doesn't it? So the object of asking oneself questions such as these is merely to enable one to determine which factor would be the best for development, the one which would fit your requirements the best. So if you've learned the requirements for astral projection, you'll be enabled to select the factor more scientifically, so to speak. It's not for me to dictate which factor you select and try to develop, but my advice would be to try thirst for several reasons. Why go to the trouble of developing a habit of tenacious routine, working probably weeks and impressing it strongly, in other words, trying to build it up for weeks in your subconscious mind, when you can just impress thirst? They're just like in a few hours with little effort. Second, there must be appeased. The subconscious knows this. Thirst must be appeased. It has to be. And will resort to anything to get to the body to water. So it will move the astral out of body with determination if it cannot move the physical. This is a weird way, though. Let's look at this, though, man. This is a weird way to get out of body. I mean, I don't know why my mouth is so dry, but it is dry. I hate that. I should have grabbed a big bottle of water. I guess I'll drink this water. It's been sitting here a few hours, whatever. Or just talking about it's making me thirsty. But this is a weird way to get out of body, right? Impress a desire upon yourself that cannot be fulfilled, so that your unconscious will try to fulfill it while you sleep, which will move your astral body out. That is not something I'm used to hearing. So before any specific instructions can be laid down for you to follow, we need to study some more stuff about the aspects of this process. We know that the subconscious will does not only have to become possessed of the idea of moving out of the body, or not out of the body, but the will has to be possessed of the idea of just moving the body. But the physical body has to be incapacitated. So after we learn how to quiet the physical body, we shall come to the instructions for combining both stress and incapacity, which must be done in order to produce the OBE. Incapacity of the physical body means that it is usually passive or inactive, so passive that it will not respond the instant the subconscious will tries to move the coinciding bodies. So if you're not deep enough into, I guess, paralysis, where if you think, okay, I'm going to sit up, and your body actually starts to try to move, you're probably not deep enough into it yet. So when this happens, the astral body just breaks away from the physical. And if the subconscious will attempts to move the body, Just as the subject is rising to sleep, the phantom will project without stopping in the zone of quietude. And if the subconscious will attempts to move the body, that is, if a suggestion bursts forth while the phantom is in the zone of quietude, and the physical body is not in the proper degree of passivity, the phantom slips back into the physical mechanism and the two coinciding bodies will move. The subject may be partially conscious or unconscious. He may act out what he is dreaming if he's partially conscious. He may be trying to appease a desire or enact a habit. This is physical, what he calls physical somnambulism. And in it, the subject may become conscious just as he can in astral somnambulism. The only difference here is that the physical body is incapacitated in one case and is left behind, while in the other case, the physical body is not incapacitated and moves along also. You're pretty much like you're sleepwalking, almost, you know. A study of somnambulism will help us to appreciate the significance of astral projection, for we can see the similarities. We can see that there is but one factor determining whether it will be the physical body which moves or the astral, and that factor is physical incapacity. And there is a specific method of bringing it about at will. I hate when he's beating around the bush. Just tell us what it is. Before going into this method, let us first observe the similarity between the cause and continuation of physical somnambulism and the cause and continuation of astral projection. The cause, as has been pointed out, is in both cases the rising to the surface of the subconscious mind of an impression which acts as a suggestion to the subconscious will, the nature of the impression being a habit, desire, or a dream. Once the phantom is projected, or once the subject begins to walk in his sleep physically, the condition of the mind is the same. The physical sleepwalker can act out the dream which is in his mind. So can the astral somnambulist. The movement of the somnambulist is so certain that if observed, one would be struck by the controlling intelligence. Yeah, but what about people that wake up and just pee on the TV? I mean, I had a cousin that used to do that. When we stayed at my grandmother's house, he would sleepwalk. And I was sleeping on the couch one night. I remember him sleepwalking into the living room, just mumbling, talking, and, you know, just whatever. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Do you want something to drink? He's like, no, I got to go to the bathroom. I'm like, well, go to the bathroom. He turns around and just pisses on the TV. Well, we were kids, but still. Like, he wasn't, like, he's exactly as he wasn't conscious. He don't remember the dream. He don't remember sleepwalking. But he had a desire to go to the bathroom. You know what I mean? So the will started moving his body, but I guess, you know, because he wasn't conscious. And you know what's weird about that whole thing too? I remember specifically the biggest weird thing about that was that his eyes were open. Not all the way open, but I could see his eyeballs. And he couldn't, that's so strange. Like he couldn't see in front of him because I guess he was deep in sleep. So even though his eyes were open, like they were still not working, not in the physical world. So whatever he was seeing, I have no idea, you know. That boy ain't right. Yeah. Sleepwalkers always freaked me out. Always. So if the somnambulist encounters a person, he will either pay no attention to him or at once that person will become a part of the dream. And if the subject is partially conscious and the astral body acting under similar conditions, should the projector in a dream encounter other individuals, either earthly or in spirit, they likewise at once become characters in the dream. Recall the dream in which I was shooting Indians. Recall that little priest stood nearby. He stood nearby himself. Okay, yeah. So that was earlier. He had a dream that kind of proved all that. One writer has stated that he knew of a man who went to bed, wondering if he had locked the door of his shop, and that the man was subsequently stopped by a policeman close to the shop. He was walking back and forth in a somnambulistic condition. We can see how this impression remained upon the surface of the subconscious mind and activated the will while the man slept. And had he been physically incapacitated, the astral body alone would have traveled the same route rather than the physical. He's saying the same things over and over again, hoping that we get it. But I got it a long time ago, didn't you? I know what he's talking about. The will moves the astral body. The astral body is what actually keeps us alive, or is our consciousness, so to speak, of our individuality. It's without it, we would be nothing but jerky, nervous, whatever. But the will moves the astral body, which in turn moves the physical body when we're conscious. When we're unconscious, the will moves the etheric body just out of, wherever it goes while we sleep. I get it. The will moves both bodies. If the physical body becomes incapacitated, then we astrally project. I don't know why he's saying all these different stories, saying the same damn thing, trying to make sure that we understand it, I guess. You may say that, or maybe he's trying to fill pages, I don't know. So you may say that this is not a case in which the impression is caused either by desire, habit, or dream, but it is. So far as the dreamer's mind was concerned, the habit of locking the shop every day was apparently broken. And there was also a desire to know whether the shop was unlocked, and if so, to lock it. So you will find by analysis that all somnambulisms and all astral projections are caused by the same fundamental factors: desire, habits, or dreams. Even though by studying the actions of the sleepwalker, one can find no clue which leads him to accept this belief, there is somewhere to be found the clue which leads to the desire, habit, or proper dream. Now, a strong habit may project the phantom or put the sleepwalker into action, and so may a dream suggestion, even though it leads him away from the fulfillment of the habit. And this is what generally happens too. The subject is always dominated by the strongest suggestion in the mind at that moment. So an illustration of this, suppose one should go to bed hungry. So no one likes to go to bed hungry, but you do. And the desire for food should come to the surface or remain at the surface. This desire remains at the surface of the subconscious mind. And if it's strong enough, the suggestion food would be given to the subconscious will. If the subject were not physically incapacitated and did not become conscious, he would begin to somnambulate. If he were physically incapacitated, he would project his astral body under the dominant suggestion of food. If no dream suggestion occurred, or if a dream occurred which suggested eating, as it would in all probability, the subject would continue under the dominating impression and might go to the cupboard or to a restaurant or to a bakery, depending upon the relative thought which food was brought up in the mind. So, if on the way to fulfill this desire, he should encounter, let's say, in a partially conscious condition, that is, in the dream, something which would bring a different impression to his mind, he might forget about his desire for food and begin to do something else. So let's suppose he was projected or physically somnambulating, sleepwalking, I guess, under the suggestion of, I'm hungry, I need food. So the subconscious will starts moving his physical body. He starts sleepwalking into the kitchen, looking for food or whatever. But not in this case, let's say the impression was that of a bakery, and that he was journeying to the bakery. Now on the way, suppose he should pass the bank, like he's going to the bakery to fulfill that desire. But on the way there, he passes the bank, where he transacted business and kept his money, where he was in the habit of going there very often to deposit his earnings. And this suggestion might dominate the one he was following, and he would try to enter the bank instead of continuing to the bakery. Basically, it sounds like freaking zombies, doesn't it? Like our astral bodies, they're just like zombies, and it's like food, 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 you know. And then we look at the bank and we're like, oh, I gotta balance my checkbook, and we're just banging our heads against the wall, you know, at the bank door trying to get in. That's what he makes it sound like. But I guess that's kind of how it works, sometimes how we move around in the dream world and astral world, you know. Okay, so if he were in the astral body, he would pass right through the door of the bank, go to the teller's window, make his deposit, then walk out again, following the course he usually followed when coming from the bank after making a deposit. If he was in the physical body sleepwalking in a somnambulistic condition, he might go up to the door of the bank, dream that it was closed, turn around, and start home again. Now, he would be following the suggestion which he derived from the mind, which guides his movements, just as it is suggestion which guides our movements while we're conscious. Now, Walsh writes this: in certain persons, the sleepwalking attacks very, very little. Every word, gesture, or other act occurs at exactly the same time with each performance, just like a drama on the stage. Should the attack be terminated abruptly, the dream drama will, with the next attack, begin at the point where it was broken off. This point is illustrated by a case of Charcot's. His patient was a newspaper man who, during sleepwalking attacks, believed he was a novelist. And after he had written 2 or 3 pages, these were taken away from him, and the attack terminated. In the next attack, he would begin to write at the point where he left off. Once again, we see the desire to write and habit as active causes. Thus, we see that physical somnambulism and the astral projection rest substantially upon the same foundation. The difference consists merely in whether or not the physical body is active enough to cling to the astral during the performance. Hey, I hope nobody sleepwalks in the chat room. I'm not trying to make fun of you at all. So I'm just saying that, like, that the way he's talking about it is as if, like, the subconscious is like this dumb zombie that just follows, like, the carrot on the stick suggestion of the will. And maybe it does, but I feel like I'm a bit more intelligent in my dreams than that. I don't know. Okay. This is just some weird OBE techniques, let's be honest. So just as under the dominating suggestion of hunger, the proper subject may either physically somnambulate or be projected in the astral body and may go to the cupboard, restaurant, or bakery, so will the same type of person go to the water faucet or to a stream or to any other place where he can appease the desire if he's thirsty, if he's under the desire suggestion of thirst. So when first experimenting along this line, that is, when first voluntarily inducing the desire for water, dude, he's making me thirsty. I'm going to have to get water at break for sure. But you have this, let's say you have this big desire for water before you go to sleep. He said, I did this, and I was successful at the very outset in producing projection of the astral body. To strengthen the desire stress, I would prevent myself from drinking for some time before trying the experiment, and at the same time aggravate the desire by thinking of drinking, gazing at a glass of water, putting it almost to my mouth, and then refusing to drink it. So he was torturing himself with the liquid, right? So before going to bed or before retiring, I would force myself to swallow about 1/8 of a teaspoonful of salt. What in the hell? I'm not doing this to astral project. I'm sorry. I mean, I love having OBEs, but I'm not doing this to have one. You know, this was an ordeal, as you may well imagine, but think of the stress which was put upon the mind by doing this. Imagine the desire for drink, which was accumulating even after sleep intervened. The first projection by means of this method in which I became conscious was a dream projection. I dreamed that I was walking along a dusty road, and it was a sweltering hot day. I was thirsty but could find no place to get a drink. I pulled off my shirt and tried to moisten my mouth with the sweat which it contained. My thirst was increasing, and I was becoming weak and blinded by the sun when I finally reached a farmhouse, and there was a windmill. I hurried as fast as I could to the tank below it, but the tank was dry. That's a nightmare, brother, if you're thirsty. I looked up at the wheel above me and saw that it wasn't turning, and knowing that it would pump water if the wheel turned, I began to climb the structure, intending to stand upon the platform at the top and turn the wheel by hand, and thus pump some water into the tank, and then go down and drink it. I began to climb up the ladder of the windmill, and just as I reached the top, the wheel began to turn rapidly, and catching my clothing, threw me outward through the air. I was glad in the dream that I was flying through the air, for I could see that I was speeding towards a river near my home, and that I knew I should probably get a drink there. And soon I was by the river and on my knees drinking. It was at this moment that I became clearly conscious, and I found myself in the astral body. Check this out. So at that moment, he became lucid. And then I found myself in the astral body on the bank of the river, which is less than 100 yards from my house, at a spot where I often sit when I fish. So you notice the various elements in this experience which affect projection. There was the desire for water. There was the dream of going upward or up the windmill, of moving outward as the wheel caught my clothing and slung me outwards, of awakening at a spot near the river where I had been in the habit of fishing. And so by instilling the stress of thirst, I produced several recurrences of the earlier experience which I have given, and which I woke up at the water tap in the kitchen with my hands in the faucet, my astral hands or my etheric hands in the faucet. So remember that when you once become conscious in a certain place in the astral, you will probably again become conscious in that same spot under similar conditions. Trippy, man. I don't know. That's trippy. I might try that. I just don't want to go to bed thirsty. But I might try it just to see what happens. Why not? All right, so we're at the top of the hour. Live 365. Tune in. We've got to do the Fringe FM break for licensing. Don't forget, when times are tough, eggs are like $6 a carton. You can't buy a loaf of bread without paying $3. It's hard to run a business, especially if you're a private business owner. My partners at DEK Consulting can help you, whether you're a small business, large business, individual, content creator, whatever, man. They'll help you get your shit together, teach you some tricks. You need all the help you can get right now. DEK Consulting. Check out our YouTube descriptions. They're in there. It'll soon be on the website, too. We'll be right back. Stay with us. You can also text or call in at 501-777-5631. I need to get a drink now talking about all that. Crazy.
Have you ever wondered, what do the stars say for me? Or, will the next month or the next year be more favorable? How about, are our two signs compatible? Each month, at the new moon, you can ask these questions live with me, your astrologer psychic, Mary DeCina, along with host of Lighting the Void, Joe Root. Join us at the new moon for Cosmic Conditions. We look forward to working with your energy.
Every new moon at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on Fringe FM.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad.
Oh, I forgot
It
to hit
simply
a
means
button.
that something is
Damn it.
awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear,
Claude.
especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Let's go. All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void Radio. Good Lord, man, that's got to be the thirstiest I've ever been on this show ever. I think I was already thirsty before talking about this thirst out of body thing, whatever, and then like the more I started reading about it, I don't know if you could tell, but like my lips were sticking together. I couldn't say words. I started thinking, it was almost like he was hypnotizing me. I had to have a drink. So sorry about the dead air, but there's a relay button I'm supposed to hit that plays the commercials on through or relays them through, and I forgot to hit it. I just jumped up and grabbed some water. What's up, Claude? Where you been, brother? I'm surprised. I was wondering if you was alive. You are alive. All right, no. All right, let's get back into these strange methods of All right, so here's the idea that Vuldoon's talking about if you're just tuning in, because some of you are just tuning in, right? That the will move the bodies, our astral bodies, whether it's our astral or a physical body. Once it decides to move, just like when we walk or whatever we do, on a regular basis, it does that. The reason why the astral body comes out is when we have a will to do something and our physical body becomes incapacitated. That's like the astral travel, I guess, law, so to speak, right? Well, now he's getting into ways that you could do this. And one of these ways is by making the desire, I guess your desire body, I don't know, or the desire to do something so bad that you can't do it, I guess. And so it causes us to astral project. I'm having some like internet issues. I don't know. Am I glitching all over the place? It seems like I'm glitching a little bit here. Anyways. So we have what doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be sex. We have desires for, because I know that's what people are thinking about, sex, food, whatever. But any desire or any habit that we do is a desire. If we become incapacitated, there's this like urge for it to happen. So the will takes over. And if our physical body's incapacitated, it causes us to astrally project. I personally don't recommend this way to astral project, but it seems to work. Now he's talking about what he calls somnambulation, which is unconscious movement, whether it's in our astral body or the physical body. So physical somnambulation is pretty much sleepwalking. If we have astral somnambulation, we go to sleep, our etheric double or our phantom pops out, and we either stay there or we dream, depending on how deep the sleep is, and we don't remember it. But it's the same thing. We're unconscious in either the physical or the astral. I hope all that makes sense. Now, this is from years and years of him experimenting with this stuff. So he said, the following incident was related to me and illustrates how the stress of thirst. I'm so freaking thirsty right now. I feel like this is an NLP thing. How the stress of, thirst may cause physical sleepwalking. A man of middle age who had not been in the habit of drinking much water gradually developed an intense desire for drink. Is this making any of you guys thirsty, or is it just me? By day, he would drink a lot. And finally, he began to get up in his sleep and to get something to drink. So he would rise from his bed. In a somnambulistic condition, he would sleepwalk, slip on his shoes, go downstairs, put on his hat, take the pail out of the well, fill it, and then come back into the house again and drink. This performance was kept up every night on a regular basis. Okay. A physician who was called to observe the case pronounced it a nervous affliction. Remember, this is back in the 20s. You're sleepwalking all the time and doing that. Those doctors back then, they would give you a cigarette to calm down and say you had a nervous condition. But his tonic for the nerves didn't stop the sleepwalking. Finally, another doctor was called on. He got a second opinion. And the second physician came several nights to observe the man's movements and noticed all the details. He concluded that it was the desire for drink which caused the man to somnambulate in this manner, and after sleepwalk. I hate that word, somnambulate. And after examining the man carefully, he discovered that he was suffering from a bad case of gastritis, which is always accompanied by intense thirst. By curing the gastritis, the man's intense desire for water disappeared, and the nocturnal activities also ceased. If one experiences an intense desire for wrongdoing, let's say a criminal desire, which he is forced to suppress, and the desire bursts forth while he sleeps, should he somnambulate physically or project the astral body, he will attempt to appease that criminal desire in a sleepwalking state, whether he is sleepwalking in his astral body or in his physical body. As a rule, the acts of the sleepwalker are harmless and in accord with most of his experiences or his inner nature. But somewhere I've read of a clergyman, a most upright character by day, who by night was a thief, and of another individual who resembled Mr. Hyde, made famous by Stevenson. We may attribute these cases to very powerful dreams or to strong impulses which the individual was able to repress by day. And Dr. Walsh is correct. It is the suggestion which bursts forth while the subject sleeps, and whether the subject projects in the astral body or whether the physical body clings on to the astral during the performance depends solely upon one factor, and one factor alone. Is the physical body incapacitated? That's the most important thing. I wonder how deep that would go. Do you think there was ever like I'm so dry, but I'm sick. Oh. Man, Jane says, I've heard of other techniques like drink bunches of water right before bed, and that'll get you out of bed. Do you think that if he's correct about this, that there's like, I don't know, like meth heads that get up and it's like, I want to cook up a batch of meth today, and they sleepwalk and they go into the kitchen and they start making meth, while they're sleepwalking? Because they're already addicted to it. That's another desire. They're probably addicted, because I used to know one, a meth cook, right? They're addicted to cooking meth all the time. I wonder if I don't know. It's my ADD thinking about this stuff. Because if he's right, think about all the things that people have done in their sleep and just wasn't aware of it. Probably burn the house down. I'm going to cook me up a batch of dope. So he says, how I discovered the incapacity is an important factor. So here's another discovery that he made while in search of the causes which brought about his earlier astral projections. And you'll learn thereby one of the main reasons for incapacity. So being a curious person like I am, after experiencing several conscious projections, I concluded that there was a cause. The seeming miracle could not possibly happen unless behind it there were certain factors which promoted it. And within myself I was annoyed, since I could not at all find the cause of this. So he was just projecting and didn't know why, I guess. Several prominent spiritualists to whom I wrote informed me that no one knew any specific causes for astral projection. The spiritual people said it was a gift, that the Hindus were especially gifted with this ability, etc., etc. So after retiring at night, I would wonder if I should go out in that phantomous body. Oh boy. I gotta turn this down, sorry. Y'all hear that? So after he would go to bed, he would wonder if he should go out in this, etheric body. I remained awake for hours thinking of this strange reality upon which no one could enlighten me. I would drift into this hypnagogic state, visualizing projection, thinking projection, and would just think about it. And in fact, the experiences which I'd encountered seemed to have gripped his every thought after he went to bed at night. I know the exact feeling. When I started having OBs, I was obsessed with it. I thought about it all the time. So to experience such a reality and yet find no one who would believe me, that was the dismaying part. I bet, man. No one believes me now when I talk about it. And I mean, people are more open to it, but for the most part, most people don't believe in it. And so I bet it was really hard back in the 1920s. My associates, yes, even members of my own family, ridiculed the very suggestion of such an impossibility, as they called it. I was pronounced a dreamer and said to be off in the upper story. The scorn which I received from others hurt me. I would cry often after going to bed to think that no one would place any credence in my claims. If I could find the causes, I reasoned, and could make them known, perhaps others would believe in the out-of-body experience. So within me arose a determination to learn what brought about these projections. You've already been made familiar with some of the findings which I then made, and this is how I made the discovery that incapacity of the physical body is essential. One night I was laying awake in bed and had been concentrating in a quiet mental mood upon different parts of my body. My mind came to rest upon my heart. I noticed that it did not seem to be beating at the speed it should when normal. So the next day I went to the doctor and had the heart examined. It was beating but 42 times per minute, but it was steady. He gave me a box of, what is this called? Strychnine? He gave him strychnine. Really? He gave me a box of strychnine, a cardiac stimulant, assuring me that this would correct the condition. He added, however, that occasionally in his practice he had come upon similar cases, one man, whom he named, having a pulse which was in the 40s also. Here's some strychnine, man. That'll do the trick. Sleep sex is totally a thing, yeah? You mean... I've done that too. Like you have sex with your partner while you're asleep and you don't remember doing it? I've done that. Dude, you think about all the stuff they prescribed to the people back in the 20s. That there's no way in hell doctors would prescribe it now. We got to speed your heart up. Here's some methamphetamine, or here's some strychnine. Smoke a cigarette, boy. So for almost a year prior to this, a week seldom passed by that I did not experience a projection in some form. So he had astral projections like every night. And every night I could notice the astral body rising out of the physical in this hypnagogic state, causing me to jump. Or, that jump feeling you have when you're kind of waking up. I believe I mentioned once before that persons who have been troubled with sinking or sliding or rising and fading sensations and jumps of the body are believed when their physicians give them a remedy to regulate the heart's actions. Here's the reason why a heart stimulant will relieve the condition. The heart activates the physical body. If the heart's slow, the body when it rests becomes more passive than when the heartbeat is normal or fast. The astral body always withdraws into the zone of quietude during sleep. And when the physical body is normally active, the astral body cannot withdraw until it becomes passive. Unconsciousness usually intervenes before the astral body emerges from the physical, and the body becomes passive before the astral rises out of it. So now, if the heart gets below normal, the physical body becomes passive enough for the astral body to move out of it shortly before consciousness is lost, and the subject notices the astral body's movement. If you give someone or the subject a cardiac, see, he's talking like a mad scientist now, you know. If you give the subject a cardiac stimulant and the physical body will not become inactive enough to allow the astral to rise until long after the unconsciousness has intervened. And further, the stimulant holds the astral body very near the physical. So remember what I said regarding innervation. When the astral condenser is run down, the astral moves out of coincidence with the physical more rapidly than when it is holding a fair amount of energy. That is why the subject who is nervous, lacks nerve energy, experiences symptoms similar to those of the subject whose heartbeat is below normal when they go to sleep. A heartbeat below normal has the same effect as innervation. It allows the astral body to move out of coincidence with the physical before the subject has lost consciousness. Imagine what would happen if the subject were lacking in neuric energy and possessed a heartbeat which was far below normal at the same time. Well, here's the reason why he's saying this. That is just the condition which I was in. I stated that before taking the cardiac stimulant, which I procured from my doctor, I'd experienced a projection in some form almost every week, and the primary stages of projection every night. No sooner had I begun to take the heart stimulant than all trace of the phenomenon disappeared, even the primary stages. I gave this a thorough trial, taking the pellets for 2 months, and became fairly convinced that passivity of the physical body is a necessary requisite for producing the phenomenon of astral projection. Then I stopped taking the pellets. In a few days, I observed that the rate of my pulse was dropping, and it was not long before I was again experiencing the things that I had formerly experienced. Then I made another discovery. I could control my pulse rate by means of my mind. And after retiring and relaxing, I would concentrate upon my heart, and in less than 2 weeks, I could speed up the heartbeat or slow it down at will. And it was not long before I succeeded in keeping the heart rate at its normal rate without the use of stimulants, but the ability to reduce the pulse rate also enabled me to induce complete incapacity of the physical body at will. I shall later give you the instructions for doing this in order that you might be able to induce this condition. Oh, he's going to tell us how to slow down our heart. They gave him strychnine. Hey, I'm going to tell you something. Vuldoon may be a crazy guy. He might seem a little off. But it's definitely a void walker. If this guy was thinking about this kind of stuff in order to have astral projections, he was doing things that you and I wouldn't. I don't know if I would do this. I'm not about to take some damn stimulants to speed up my heart just because, I don't know, whatever. Like, I'm not talking about coffee or energy drinks or Adderall, you know. But what I'm talking about strychnine, man. This is the stuff they put in crappy acid. Anyways, what I'm saying is he was brave enough to like mess with all this stuff in his body to figure this out, which I give him credit for. It's not a very weak thing to want to find the truth that bad, in my opinion. So now, while realizing that the two major factors of astral projection are proper stress of suggestion and physical incapacity, you will, while concentrating upon these essentials, realize that there are numerous minor factors which contribute to the two major ones, and will learn to include every possible promotive element. I shall now enumerate some of these, and you will no doubt be able to think of others. The correct temperature for the experiment is extremely important. If the temperature in which you attempt this development be too cold, you will harbor a mental disquietude. If it's too warm, you'll likewise be uncomfortable, thereby preventing passivity and relaxation. So, I guess get the right temperature. Further, the warmth of the body will aid the heart in circulating the blood more freely, which tends to prevent physical incapacity, which we don't want because we're trying to get out of body. So the ideal temperature is one in which the subject is cool but comfortable. Anything taken into the body which produces a stimulating effect like liquor, medicine, food will exert a negative force, mostly because the stimulant works against physical incapacity. Although the emotion should be calm, the mind should not be, as is commonly supposed. One can retire when greatly troubled in mind, and that very condition of being may create the proper stress which stays at the surface or comes to the surface after sleep intervenes. Of course, with hypnosis, when the suggestion comes from the operator instead of from the subject himself, placidity of mind is essential. And the type of projection we're studying right now that we're talking about, the mind of the subject himself acts in the same manner as the mind of the operator in hypnosis. You know, this is one of the biggest reasons why we when we do out of body stuff, like even in my audio guided OBE stuff that I have a couple of things, but everybody else's programs that I've listened to, whether it's Buellman's or Greg Doyle's or whoever, it's relaxing enough that you can relax so good like a cat that naturally your heart rate's going to slow down when you relax. And the more your heart rate can slow, the easier it is for your physical body to relax, fall into that sleep state of the body, get into the vibratory state, and the physical body become totally incapacitated while the mind is still awake. I think that's, in my opinion, that's all the hemisync thing does. It just keeps your mind awake while your body's falling asleep, you know. So let's say your conscious mind is, you're worrying about something. So the conscious mind can be greatly troubled before you go to sleep. In self-projection, the suggestion comes from the subject's own mind. In projection induced by hypnosis, the suggestion comes from the mind of the operator. If, in fact, the mind were calm, no suggestion would come forth during sleep. Consequently, no projection of the astral body would be brought about. So the vital factor in the projection of the astral body is the stress of the mind. The conscious mind can be greatly troubled before the subject goes to sleep, and the stress, which is there, continues to stay at the surface of the subconscious. Remember the incident of the man who went to bed worrying, thinking that he'd left his shop door unlocked. This stress that was in his mind remained on the surface even after he went to sleep. It possessed his subconscious will, and he came and rose out of his bed and went to the shop and locked the door. He was sleepwalking, though. If you have formed the opinion that the mind must be calm in order to produce projection of the astral body, you will be forced to revise this idea, for passivity of mind is a sure way, according to Vuldoon, to prevent astral projection. The sleeping quarters in which the subject sleeps should be far from disturbing noises. Noises have a tendency towards interiorization and keep you in your physical body. There's nothing new in this assertion, for everyone knows that when a sleeper is to be awakened, noise is one of the surest ways of arousing him. However, if your etheric phantom has been projected out of your physical body for some distance outside of what he calls chord activity range, noise is as apt to awaken him in the astral body as it is to awaken him in the physical body. In attempting development, however, the subject is not apt to make a complete long-distance separation at first, and therefore sounds are undesirable. So you don't need a noisy environment. So I've noticed that it is the unusual sound which usually awakens the phantom, the tick of a clock, the draughting of a stove or furnace, or that's a drafting. What, he spelled that wrong. These are all sounds which have become familiar and pass unnoticed. They don't seem to affect the experiment, but naturally a country environment is more suitable for the experiment than a city environment, insofar as the sound element is concerned. anything and everything which contributes to the comfort and relaxation of the body, which can be instituted during the attempt at astral body projection, should be put into use. It is advisable to use as little bed covering as possible, for sometimes extra weight upon the body will induce peculiar psychological effects during sleep. The weight resting upon the body may cause the belief while you're asleep that you're under some massive structure or that you're being smothered, causing dreams to have that effect and not infrequently arousing the emotions. But this is not at all. This isn't that heavy bed clothing is liable to do so. And several times, when within cord activity range and conscious, I've noticed that there seems to be some indescribable weight resting upon me, as if something actually pressed upon me. It was kind of as if my breathing didn't satisfy my desire for breath. Yeah. That's another thing that freaks out people who get in sleep paralysis, I heard too, is that they feel like this, because I used to say, what, do you see a ghost? Like, is there something like actually sitting on you? And they're like, no, something's on my chest and I feel like I can't breathe. That's what they would say. I feel like there's a weight on my chest, which is going to cause you to worry, because then all of these damn commercials come on. Are like, do you have weight upon your chest? You may be having a heart attack, and yada, yada, yada. And you could be, but that's a lot of shit to worry about. This doesn't sound pleasant, does it? Like the out-of-body experience from this point of view doesn't sound pleasant at all. But again, I've had dreams where I seem to be standing up and trying to walk while some massive weight rested upon my head. Yep. Like something's grabbing your head and holding you and pulling you, trying to keep you getting too far away from your body when you're out, right? And I've awakened from these dreams and found myself projected and within cord activity range, and still the weight seemed to be pressing me downward. Observation convinced me that this sensation of being under a great weight while projected within the cord activity range was caused by the weight of the clothes resting upon the physical body. So heavy bed covers are not only apt to induce a dream, which will prevent the suggestion of astral projection, but will actually suggest the idea of going downwards under weight into the projected phantom. There's another way of looking at this, though. Maybe, wouldn't the heavy bed coverings give to the subconscious mind the idea of smothering, or cause a dream of being smothered, which would set up the desire for air, causing the subconscious will to move the body outdoors to appease the desire for air? And now you're thinking correctly, according to Vuldoon. Of course it would. And if the physical counterpart were incapacitated, the phantom would move out of body. Just another cause of so-called spontaneous projection, which always has some fundamental law behind it. So, according to Vuldoon, there is nobody that just randomly astral projects for no reason. There's a reason. And the reason is there's a stress factor behind it, causing them to want to birth. The subconscious is causing the astral body, or the body, whatever you want to call it, to burst forth, feel a desire, dream, or habit. It's causing stress. The mind is troubled, or it's stressed by it a little bit, but they relax enough, or something happens where the physical body becomes incapacitated and the astral body comes out. It's not ever a random thing. There's actually a reason behind it. It would not be advisable, however, for anyone to endeavor to produce a projection of this sort at will by trying to smother himself into a desire for air, for in trying it, he might take the air permanently. Yeah, I think every one of us can get out of body just by relaxing and get into a relaxed enough state where the heart rate is low enough that we'll go into sleep paralysis, but the good version of it, and still have the mind awake or will to move out of body. Then that's what a lot of people that have done it have done. So things like your clothes, if they're too heavy, can bring about these results. So if you're doing experiments with this, he says it's advisable to wear nothing which can be dispensed with. Wearing nothing is better than wearing something. Tight-fitting clothes, don't do it, for it's not only uncomfortable but shuts off blood circulation. And while it is desirable to slacken the circulation of the blood, it's unwise to prevent its circulation. The less restrictions of this sort, the better. All right, let's go to the chat. See what you guys are saying about this stuff. Has anybody ever had a random OBE that this makes sense to? Meth heads don't sleep. I heard that. I've been known to sleepwalk, sleep talk, and sleep sex. Yep. Dude, sleep sex is totally a thing. Yep. I remember we talked about that a minute ago, right? Is this still live now? Yeah, it's still live. What are the hours of the broadcast? Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursday nights from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific. 10 to 12 Eastern. Joe sent me a friend request, so now I'll listen. Okay. Boy, there's a lot of deals going on, right? Let's see. Flatliners. Yeah, that's a good movie. Hey, what's up, Ava? I thought you have the same thing as Dan, so I thought you were Dan. What's going on? All right. So no, nobody's doing this. The less restrictions, the better. It's not that the astral body cannot pass through the clothing or bed covers. It can do that. It can pass through a brick wall or a steel vault, but clothing and other such restrictions produce a physiological effect which is not altogether desirable. So if you're going to astrally project, you can do it little clothing or naked, I guess is better. With little or no clothing covering the body during the experiment, a physiological effect of freedom and lightness is kind of produced, which is a powerful factor in strengthening the sensations peculiar to projection. One can quite understand how such sensations would counteract the sensations of projection, which are lightness and freedom. The sensation of being held down will hold the phantom down, will hold your etheric double down. Likewise, the sensation of lightness will affect the phantom in a similar way, even investigating dreams which have a pulling out effect upon the dream body. So, it is well to remember that weight upon the body from clothing or anything else, blankets, heavy blankets, is unfavorable for this. Projection of the astral body can take place while the subject is seated. You don't have to be lying down. You could, you can do it while you're seated in a reclined position, but lying in the horizontal position is greatly to be preferred. Those hours of the night which one is allotted to sleep will probably be found the best, and there are many reasons why this would be so. When you retire at night, you put away thoughts of worldly activities until the next day, whereas if you attempt projection during the day, you will say to yourself, I'll just lay down for a while and see what I can do, and then, go to work again. But in the back of your subconscious, you're thinking about work all the time. There's so many reasons for practicing the phase at night rather than during the daytime that it would seem almost a waste of time to try to enumerate them all, and they should be self-evident by now. At night, there are so many influences to distract your attention from what you are concentrating upon. And you will find that you can think of self, which is important, which much more ease at night than during the day. Yeah, but also, man, I get tired at night. I've had some really good astral projections during the day. Really good ones. I remember getting out of body and seeing my neighbor mowing the yard and stuff, and was trying to get to that tree out in the front of the pasture out here. And it was broad daylight. So I don't know. I might disagree with that. Nighttime, I don't know, unless you're just tired, really tired. I've had many OBEs, but for some reason my mental image of them is the movie Half-Baked when they're flying. Oh yeah. It can be like that. So one of the most certain ways of ensuring the projection of the astral body, and especially a projection which is conscious from the outset, is for the subject to go to sleep and sleep several hours, and then begin to project in the astral body. And just as he is becoming conscious when you wake up, that is, while he's in the hypnagogic state, emerging from sleep. This is the time when astral catalepsy is commonly met with. It's often several seconds before we can even move physically. And when in this condition, first, because the physical body is very passive. Second, because the phantom is cataleptic. And third, because the motivity may be outside the body. This is a favorable time to do astral projection, which of course can be brought about by suggestion. I can't find a good position anymore. You know, what I usually do is I'll lay on my back when I do it, and I might pull a sheet over me, but sometimes I don't, and I'll get the temperature right, and I'll lay on my back, and then I will put a pillow under my legs, like run under my knees, and then sometimes, or I'll lay on my side and put a pillow between my knees, and for some reason that just feels super comfortable. So Vuldoon goes on to say, lying upon your right side or upon the back are two positions best suited to the astral projector, although it can take place regardless of whatever your position you're in. Lying upon your back has always produced the best results for him, and you will probably find this position is especially favorable if you are trying to produce exteriorization in the hypnagogic state on entering sleep. The sensation of floating and rising upon the air are more easily produced by lying on your back. And one reason for this is that the blood is preventing from circulating freely along the spine with its many nerves, thus deadening one's feelings of contact with the bed, kind of. The sensations, regardless of where it primarily originates, is decidedly what is wanted for producing astral body uprising, provided, of course, you enjoy the sensations. And that's the thing, man. You can't help people that don't enjoy it. Like, if they don't enjoy it, if it scares the shit out of them, you have to get past that first before you can actually have an OBE. There are people that struggle with this, and I met a few of them traveling around with Grimerica. Like, they loved to talk about astral travel as much as I did. They loved it. The passion and the curiosity about it. But when they actually became paralyzed, or when sleep paralysis set in, it freaked them out, you know. And that's okay. I mean, it is what it is. It's not a natural thing that we're used to, you know. And some people have terrors from it. Like, this state, since they were kids, they would feel this paralysis and cause them to have nightmares and things. So naturally, when they get older, it's not something that their subconscious correlates with a good feeling, right? So we have to figure out why to get past that. What is he saying here? Well, when you're lying upon your back, it's easier to note the sensation which is produced when your astral body moves into the zone of quietude. Many people cannot go to sleep while lying upon their backs for this very reason, because they have the sensation of floating just as they're about to lose consciousness and have slight repercussions, or they kind of jump, or they'll feel like they're sinking or something. And many people, when undergoing this, will ejaculate a more or less distinct word or syllable concurrently with the repercussion, and will have a breathtaking feeling in the pit of the stomach. Why did he have to say ejaculate, though? He could have said a different word. Terrifying as the experience may seem to the subject at the time, It's usually amusing to him afterwards when he thinks about it. Others become so terrified that they will jump out of bed before they can stop themselves. There's on record the case of a woman who experienced the astral body's movements as she was rising to sleep, so to speak, and repercussed with a shriek. She would jump out of bed and run outside before the terror left her. See, I told you, man, some of this stuff is freaky. Did you try to call? 501-777-5631? It didn't come through for some reason. Try back. I never had night terrors, though. I saw stuff while I was awake that was moving, but I never had paralyzed night terrors. Not really. Now, this girl that this would happen to, she would actually like shriek and then run outside. But coincidentally, with the repercussion, she would always shriek. She stated that as she was going to sleep, quote, something would get under her and push her up into the air and then just let her drop. And she always thought that it was her physical body. So she actually thought that something was lifting her physical body up and letting it go. Which, that would scare the hell out of me too. But what actually was happening, and I told you guys, when your etheric separates from your physical body, this isn't a dream. This is real. Okay? When your etheric separates from your physical body, it does not feel, there's no difference in the feeling of what you feel right now as you're listening to this and I'm talking to you. So naturally, she's going to feel like someone picked her physical body up and levitated her. But it wasn't. It was her etheric double. But she thought that it was her physical body and noticed that this took place only when she was on her back, only happened when she laid on her back. And what actually happens was this. The lady experienced the movement of the astral body as she was about to go to sleep. This would frighten her, and she would repercuss with a shriek. She ran outside, she said, to get air. Now, the astral body seems to rise more quickly when the subject is lying upon their back. And it also seems that one has a tendency to cry out more frequently during a repercussion, like, hey, wow, ouch, or oh, or what the fuck, or something like that. Our utterance is likely to be shrieked out at such a time. Another common sound is as if one had been struck a vigorous blow to the abdomen, so vigorous that it forced air through their vocal cords, causing a loud grunt. This is the one I've done. Like when you wake up and you're like, huh, you feel like you're falling or something. If you're one of those who just cannot sleep on your back because of unpleasant sensations such as these mentioned, there's a good chance that you will experience conscious projections. But you must suggest to yourself that you like these sensations and not be afraid of them. And practice projection as you're entering sleep by means of, let's say, the elevator dream that we talked about in the other show. It's not as easy to achieve success if you're just lying on your left side or on the stomach like this. We got any jumpers? Any of you guys in the chat that freak out when this stuff happens, you know? You listen on regular TV? When I said you sent a friend request, I'll listen. I did not know you. It's a great show. I'll listen on the regular. Thank you. Yeah, no problem, brother. No problem, Mitch. I heard breast talking. What? So you guys understand what he's talking about here? I mean, this stuff happens on the regular if I lay on my back. All right, so we're going to get into how much time do we got? 8 minutes left. So we're going to call what he calls repercussions, slight repercussive noises. Repercussions accompanying natural sleep, or even the more severe repercussions like those experienced in falling dreams, will often be accompanied by noise which seems close to the ear or inside the head. A very common one is a pop, as if a toy balloon burst close to the ear. Another one is a loud sizz or a sizzling sound, and sometimes a sound inside the brain causing that organ to vibrate. Another is a crackling sound, not unlike the noise made by an electric spark when the positive and negative posts of a battery are touched together. Everything he just described is something that you guys have, a few of you have told me that you've heard or felt during astral projection. Yeah. Having some issues with my voice tonight. Okay, so this sound is often heard just at the takeoff of a projection, as well as the moment of re-coincidence with the physical body, and seems to be in the head near the back or the back part of the skull. Still, another commonly heard sound at the time of re-coincidencing with the physical body is a zing, as if a string were tightly drawn through the head and then struck, as one might strike the strings of a guitar. At other times, the subject may hear a distinct word uttered. It seems very close to the ear, and even at times as though the word were spoken right inside the head. This striking thing about these sounds is the way in which they can be felt. They're actually felt, moving about inside your head. One's brain seems to shake like the diaphragm of a drum, which vibrates when it's struck and resounds. Now, here we're reminded of the head snapping so frequently noted in the case of Mrs. Piper just as she emerges from trance. This has been discussed at considerable length by various researchers in the proceedings and journals of the SPR and elsewhere. On one occasion, I was projected and was standing about 10 feet from my physical body. A dog began to bark in the street, and I heard the dog barking with my physical ears, but could feel it. I could feel the barking in my astral head. This is very difficult to explain, but it is precisely what occurred. It was as if my ears had been projected, and I could feel the sound of the barking inside my head or my astral head. You may even heard of persons who could smell color or smell sounds too, can evoke colors. And Carrington has touched upon this subject in his book called Higher Psychical Development. It is interesting to know too that at times during astral projection, the subject may see out of different parts of his astral body. He may upon his back in the air and see what is taking place below him. He may, I guess, fly upon his back in the air while looking in the opposite direction with his eyes. Ooh, that's weird. Usually force of habit compels the projector to use his eyes, but this is not absolutely necessary in all cases. I've never known this to be true, however, outside the cord activity range, although it may be. There are people who can do this in the physical body, and I personally know a man who seems to have the ability to see out of his forehead. A.J. Davison, commenting upon his first experiences along this line, says, having tightly secured my bodily eyes with handkerchiefs, the operator then placed a book on a horizontal line with my forehead, and I saw and read the title without the slightest hesitation. This test and many experiments of the kind were tried and repeated, and the demonstration of the vision, independent of the physical organs of sense, was clear and unquestionable. I guess Lombroso and others have recorded many cases in which people have been able to see by way of the solar plexus, completely independent of the physical eyes. There are times when the projected phantom can also see things which are many miles away, but as a rule, the phantom will instantly move to that spot. It's weird. And then he goes on to talk about how light is a negative factor, which I don't think we're going to get into because it's super long, but fascinating stuff. I mean, I like his approach because it's more real, I guess you could say. It explains it on a more real level than just, hey, lay down, relax, vibrate. And when you feel the vibrations, wait till, you vibrate to a certain level, then try to get out of body. Or just imagine yourself, use your imagination and focus on, all that stuff works. But if you don't understand the laws of astral projection, like the physical body has to become incapacitated, the will, so to speak, has to have enough desire for it to move the body while the physical body is incapacitated to get your astral body to like pop out or peel out or project itself somewhere. So with us and this show, by understanding things on a deeper level that Vuldoon is teaching of how this actually works, like the laws of it, will help us tremendously in methods, even coming up with our own methods. You know what I mean? So, yeah, good stuff. Happy about it. All right, guys, I'm going to roll out of here tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night. I got to get up early in the morning, go to work, like some of you other folks. I know you do. And make sure you support the show. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave us some reviews, all of that good stuff. You can email me at producer@fringe.fm. Join the Discord. Join the Telegram. Get involved. Yada, yada, yada. I love you guys. Let me see if I can find there we go. Night, everybody. Sweet dreams. I hope you get out of body. And if you do, let me know.